question is, what is the most common mistake that I see screenwriters make? I guess it would depend on which screenwriter we're talking about. When I see movies that have been made, and I respond to the scripts that get produced, the final shooting script, because I don't read whatever original script was. The most common mistake is what I call FSUSS, failure to set stuff up syndrome. Failure to set stuff up. So many movies that I see nowadays are one thing happens, then this thing happens, then this thing happens, and this thing happens, and they're not built in a, how do I say it? They have an improvised feel. It's like they just came up with something else. How about this? Well, now how about this? And now how about this? And you'll get situations where a character's in trouble. And then how do they get out? Well, they just get out. What did I see? Okay. I think a good example would be a movie that so many people loved a couple of years ago, the return of the Road Warrior. I forget the Road Warrior. Remember Mel Gibson had the original Road Warrior in the early 80s before he was Mel Gibson. And then Mad Max, the Mad Max ones. Well, there was one a couple of years ago by the same writer-director who did the original one. And it's just a lot of stuff happening. And all it is it keeps getting more bigger action, and people are getting, okay, somebody gets beat up earlier in the movie, but because it's later, now they got to get really beat up until it's just bigger and bigger and bigger, but it's dumb as a brick in terms of the storytelling. Now, I was wondering, was it always like that? I remember liking the Road Warrior, the original one. I'm trying to think. There was the second one that Mel Gibson was in. That was the big hit. I forget whether that was the Road Warrior or no, Mad Max was the first one. Then it was the Road Warrior, I think. Anyway, in the second one, there's this dramatic scene. Okay, you have a guy who's driving the car, and he's got his dog in the back, and he needs gas. So he sees a vehicle stopped by the side of the road, abandoned, and he figures, if I'm remembering this right, well, maybe it's got gas in it. So he goes and approaches the vehicle, and then the owner of the vehicle pops up behind him with a weapon, I think a crossbow. And now he's in trouble because the guy wants him to get the gas out of his car and steal it. So, okay, Mad Max could try to fight him, but he can't because he's got the drop on him. So then he goes down under the car to open it up to get the gas out, and we see underneath a knife, okay? Because Mad Max is unarmed, but there's a knife under there. Okay, great. So now we have suspense because the bad guy doesn't know the knife's under there. And he goes down and he reaches for the knife, and the bad guy says, "There better not be a knife down there." It's like, oh. So he's screwed. So he can't do anything, and he has to give him the gas, and the guy wonders, okay, he thinks might be something in the car. I forgot what the justification was. And he goes in, he thinks there might be a weapon in the car. He pulls open the door, and what happens? The dog comes out and kills the bad guy. So the escape route was planted before. That's been set up. There's a dog in the car. And Mad Max is in trouble. Nowadays, the way they would do it is he's in trouble, the guy's got the weapon, and at the last minute, he would just dodge the arrow, and beat him up. And that would pass for an action scene. I see it all the time, especially with these comic book things. You have a guy, Captain America is in an elevator, and suddenly he realizes that 6 big guys around him are all his villains, and they're all going to kill him. How does he get out of that, boy? How's he going to do it? Well, He just beats him up, and then he runs away. It's really it's unfortunate, but it can be done in a very interesting way.